How you doing, everyone? Shawn back from the Sci-Fi Model Guy, and welcome back to the full build series of the USS Enterprise 350 scale model. This is Chapter 2, and in this one, folks, we're going to be prepping the interior of the ship for light blocking and getting all that set up for putting the wiring down and the nav boards and the LEDs and all that kind of good stuff. So there's a lot to talk about this one in this believe it or not, everyone. I know it's just, putting some black paint and some white on there to reflect light, but there's a lot more to it involved. And as we talked about in the last video, this is going to be a full detailed build, everyone. We're going to show every step, or at least part of every step, to get you going. So I do remember now there was at least one person out there that said they have this kit and they haven't started, and maybe this video series was going to kind of push them to do it. I hope you're watching out there, and I hope you are building it. So as to that, everyone, please remember, send me an email of all the pictures of what you're working on. It's the sci-fi model guy at gmail.com. It's down there. Now, I haven't had a good chance to respond to all of you on that, but I do promise you I will be responding to everybody, and if you've sent me pictures, I guarantee they're going to show up in a video sometime soon. All right, and a little quick personal note, everyone, that little stubborn second job that I have, I've kind of cut that in half, so I'm going to have a lot more time here in the shop to dedicate to building and making more content and responding to your emails and stuff, so we're going to have a lot of fun. All the little plans I have coming up for the channel are going to be coming to light very soon. Okay, everyone, that's it. We will see you down the road. Enjoy this video, and we'll see you again in a few days for the next section where we start lighting this sucker and turning on some power and looking at some cool stuff. All right, everyone, see you soon. Hey, everybody. Okay, so some work has begun, and I just want to take a few minutes here and talk a little bit about what we're doing here. And I have scuffed all of the pieces that I can. And I know in the intro that we didn't get a chance to talk about or show the method of scuffing. So this is it here. This is the my DeWalt drill and the little extension that comes with the roto scrub. So I'll just take it off here just to show you what it looks like. It's just a simple little attachment. It goes right into your drill. Screw it in. And all we do here is I put it on a low speed, hold it down, and just go around here with some light pressure, and that's it. I don't really push down at all. I kind of let the weight of the item push down. Now, there were a couple of spots here that it seemed like the Brillo pad actually scuffed some of the plastic, so I did go through and give it a little bit of rub with some of the rougher sandpaper. I think it's probably 180 grit here, and then smooth it out with the 600,000 grit. So very smooth stuff here. So it's everything that I could scuff. I have. There's some very small pieces that this thing just doesn't do a good job for, and that is okay. We'll just have to live with that and clean them real well. So I've scuffed all this. Now what I'm going to do is these larger pieces here, I'm going to remove from the sprues. And I know this is kind of a simple thing, but we did say we are going to be documenting this as like a full video here. So I'm going to turn the lights over just a little bit. Let me get up here and make sure it's not too bright for you. There we go. It's always a little bit difficult getting just the right light. I don't want to blind anyone with having this stuff reflect back. So the secondary hole has already been removed from the sprues and trimmed down. So took these nippers here and removed some of the extra flash that was on here. And for newcomers, flash just means extra plastic. A good example of flash would be right here, and I had a great example of that. Oh, it was where these came from. So these the secondary hull pieces came on this piece of sprue, and this stuff here, this flaky little extra plastic, this is what's called flash. It's just leftover plastic from the mold that isn't intended to be in there. and tends to get left behind on the sprues and sometimes on parts. A real good example of flash is right here. So where these nacelles are, we can see right here, there's these little nubs coming out right here, and right here. And this is probably where they come out of the mold. They're held by 3 pieces, as it would be my guess. And these get left behind. So we have to take these off and carefully sand them down and make them look like they weren't there. The problem with this is, or not the problem, but the challenge with this is when we take these off, sometimes it takes off a little too much plastic and we end up with a little bit of a divot there, which then needs to be filled in with some putty. So you can go about it in a couple of ways. I tend to use these these are pretty good nippers here. I think they were $40 or $50. They're very sharp. I try not to use them for real thick cuts. For those, I have these other older ones that have gotten a little bit dull over time. And when you do these, you can start from the top down. So here on this one, I'm starting on the top, cutting down and down further, and then I can get it to a nub where I might be able to sand that to an even spot. I don't have to get it flush with these cutters. So I'll try that again here. And it might be a good idea for you, if you're new, you might want to wear some eye protection because these things fly. That thing just flew across the entire garage. I don't know where it landed. So sometimes when I do that, I actually close my eyes when I cut them. So if you can remember to do that, that's an okay technique, but you probably should be wearing some safety goggles on your eyes. So just cut a couple of these down. And sometimes when you cut with these things, when you press on them, it starts pulling the plastic up and you'll get little warps of the plastic where you didn't think you would. So what you can do in that case is start small. So let's see if I can bring this up here. So instead of going like down here all the way to the nub on this one, I might want to do at the tip of the nippers, just the edge, and just start there. And then keep going, kind of like scissoring. And there we go, we've cut off a little bit. And then do the same thing here. You don't have to do it all in one shot. You can do these piecemeal, especially for these larger pieces, and if you have some nice cutters, nippers that you don't want to see get ruined, you can do that. Another little solution you can do is you can use, like here, I have a hobby saw, which is meant for wood, but I've used it for some thin metal and also for plastic. So we can go here, and I'll just saw this a little bit just to demonstrate. It is biting in there. You might not be able to see it. I'm going very slow and very deliberate with my strokes. You can use a hobby knife as well, or X-Acto knife. You go through this side. This isn't the method I would normally use, but I'm just demonstrating that it can be done. There we go. And that's gone through, and it's pretty clean actually. But so yeah, I'm going to go through here and take these off. You can also kind of bend them like this if you want, but that tends to warp the plastic. I try not to do that, but it's an option. Again, I mean, we are going to be using putty in here, the perfect plastic putty on all these seam lines, but the less that you have to do, the better. So the fewer holes that you create, it's just fewer headaches down the line. Now, it is easy to start to want to rush during this because you figure, oh, I'm just removing some dead plastic from this. What could go wrong? Well, yeah, true. but you want to have these as clean as possible. So I can feel the bumps here. So I'll come through with these cutters a little bit after and just snip off some, a little bit at a time. And then when these are all done, what I'll do is put them together and then take some sandpaper and get down the little rises here and we'll take a look. Once all this is done, everybody, so I'm going to do the rest of this off camera. Once all this is done, I've taken all these larger pieces off of the sprues, and I've got them somewhat cleaned up and the extra flash taken off and more or less ready to go. That's when I'm going to take them over and give them a good bath in the sink, because I do have some residual dust here, and just even using this thing created some dust and the sandpaper and the scuffing with the Brillo pad. All that creates these little microscopic things. So we got to get rid of that, get rid of our greasy, oily hands, stuff that we've deposited all over this, and get a nice, clean, dry surface that's ready for the primer to be put on. Okay, so as far as the primer is concerned, I'm going to be using the Tamiya Fine Surface Primer for the outside. I ordered a few cans of this to come in. You don't have to use that, and you can just use like plain old Rust-Oleum stuff. This is the black primer for the inside for light blocking, but you can use that for the outside as well. This one though, I'm going to kind of, whoa, hi. We're going to go with kind of the Jurassic Park approach on this and spare no expense, which, not no expense, but I'm gonna try to go with the model paints on this one, except for the inside. This is going to be a gift, this one here, and it's an important gift for me. So we're gonna do the best that we can to get this done. So, okay. The scuffing's done. I'm just going over all this in my head here. All the major scuffing's done, and I'm going to remove these things from the sprues as much as possible, clean up the extra flash as best that we can, and then go and take everything to the sink and wash it down. I've got a few other pieces of sprue over here off to the side with some other pieces that are like this. I'm just not going to show them in this video, and you get the idea. Once that's all done, we are going to block in the light block on the inside really well with some few coats of black, and then some white matte paint, just a basic white, just to bounce the light around a little bit, which we've talked about, and then we'll be ready to wire. Now, the only other thing we're going to talk about in this segment here is the paint. So we've already discussed the primer. We're going to use the Tamiya Fine Surface Primer. Now, for the outside of the paint, we're going to go with our handy dandy Tamiya XF12 JN Gray, which is my go-to for the Enterprise. And we've said it a lot in other videos. This gray happens to have a little bit of a green tinge to it, which the original Enterprise did have. And when we coat it with the matte clear coat, it really takes on a nice shade of gray. And to me, it looks really good, really screen accurate to what we're used to. So that's going to be that. Now, some people have gone with a mixture of some basic acrylic paints, which you can get at any hobby shop, and I got these at Hobby Lobby. This was going to be the actually the color that I was going to use originally with this, and I decided, and I'm going to go with the Tamiya. I ordered 5 extra bottles of this stuff because it's a big model, so I need to cover it. But I'm going to go with that with the airbrush instead of this. Now, talking a little bit about the paint. Now, Boyd over there at Trekworks has done probably dozens of this kit, and he has got this down to a 60-40 ratio. So it's 60% of this heather gray. I'm pretty sure that's what he uses. 60% heather gray and 40% of this faded jade. And these are folk art paints you can get from Hobby Lobby. I think they're like $2.99 a bottle. It's a lot of paint in these, and they're good. They're acrylic paints, and he uses a nice big kind of a big airbrush, a big sprayer that holds about a half a pint of paint, and he pre-mixes this stuff and uses it. That was originally what I was going to do. I did buy enough paint for that, but as I've never done it before, I'm going to stick with what I know. And even though I think it's going to be a lot more expensive, well, I know it's going to be a lot more expensive of using this. This is about $7.99 a bottle, whereas those other paints were like 99 cents or $2.99. Really more economical to use those. But I've just made the decision personally to go with the XF12 as I'm used to. It's going to take a long time. I'm going to have to do a lot of airbrushing on that, and that's just the road I'm going, folks. So, okay, pretty long segment, a little bit longer than I really intended to go, but we're going to, like I said, go and look at every aspect of this build and talk about all the steps along the way. All right, folks, I'm going to finish this up here, and we will be back when everything's done, and we'll talk about the priming and light blocking for the inside of the stuff. So, see you in a minute. Hey everyone, just a real quick note before we go over and start light blocking the ship here. I wanted to talk a little bit about prepping this a little bit more. So if you notice here, there are some pieces of tape, and I've placed them in the over the holes here where these pegs go to insert and secure. That's where we're going to be gluing. So as we've stated before, whenever in any area of your models where glue is going to go, you want to make sure there's no paint or as little bit of paint as possible, because the glue will stick to the paint and not stick to the plastic, and then when it will just tend to pull apart. So to make sure we get a good bond and a good welding bond, and again, for those of you who might be new, this modeling cement here is actually kind of a welding material. It actually kind of melts these pieces of plastic and makes them bond together. That's why it's so strong. So it's a very strong bond. So in order to get the full effect of that, you have to make sure that there's no paint where this cement, the model cement, is going to go. So a lot of people will just light block it and then use a knife and scrape away the paint, or maybe a rag with some lacquer thinner just to clean it up, and maybe go into the holes here afterward and just kind of dig it out. I don't want to even bother with that, so I took the time to cut little pieces of masking tape into little squares with my X-Acto knife, and then just using the tweezers, pull them off of there and just lay them down, stick them down. That way we won't get any paint into these holes, and it will help ensure a more secure bond when we glue it. So that's been done on the saucer section as well. So these little bits here, we just cut a little strip of the frog tape, and I'll do a quick demonstration of that. If we can, yeah, you can see this here. So we just take a little bit of tape, and when you do this, you want to try not to get your oil on the sticky part. Again, our hands are full of oils and things that don't lend well to bonding of tape or cement, things like that. So here's a little tape, and I've just cut a little bit line like that, and sections about 3/4 of an inch there. Then take the tweezers like so, and then you just put it on, and I'll just redo it here. And you just kind of wrap it around like that. Then what I do is I make sure it's a little bit higher than the level of the piece, and then just use my finger kind of to tap it down just to cover everything. So that's kind of the technique there. And then the square here, obviously we just cut a little squares down. Using our tweezers, or if you have like a little thin pick, you go there and you just lay it over. Well, I'm out of camera here. You just lay it over there and then push it down with your finger. Okay. So I have a little bit more to go here. I have to finish this side of the neck, and then I'll be ready to go and paint that. So we'll film a little bit of the painting technique just as a reminder to some people. And one other little bit wanted to discuss here is the saucer section. So before I start light blocking it, I realized that in this kit there are two little pieces of plastic that poke out here in the upper part of the saucer section. Those connect with this part here on the lower part. And what a lot of folks have realized is that these two things are just not quite the right size sometimes, and it prevents a solid connection all the way around. And you don't really need these little things to support the ship. There's plenty of support around here. The styrene is very thick and solid, and so these parts here, you don't need them. So what I did, and what a lot of other builders of this kit do, these little extrusions here, I just cut them off. I just used my nippers here, cut it, and they come off, and that way we don't have to worry about them being too long on either side there, because it just doesn't lend to a solid fit on this kit. So again, that's one thing I did pick up. I have never built this kit, but I have seen a few builds of it, and people do cut those off. This one can stay, just cut the other ones off. It doesn't need to be flush, it doesn't need to be smooth or anything, but I did cut it off before I started light blocking, because if I'd light blocked and then cut these off, there would be some area here where some light actually might be able to get through on there. So I'm going to light block the parts where I cut. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Okay, and that's it. Everything is ready to go. All of the windows have been kind of filed out, took out all the flash. We talked about using the vice grip, the pin vise rather, to kind of bore out some of these holes there. And then we'll be moving along. Okay. So we'll see you over at the paint section to just review the techniques that we use for the light blocking. Catch you in a second. All right, everyone. Pretty much zoomed in here, and I don't have the mic plugged in, but we're going to do what we can here. So just a quick review on some of the painting techniques we do when we're spraying. It's always a good idea not to start your paint in the middle of your work area. You want to start pressing the button outside and come over. Now, I don't do it all the time. It's just a good practice. Sometimes I get in a little bit of rush and I'll see a spot and I want to hit it with some spray. So if you're going to do it directly over the piece, sorry about it shaking. If you're going to do the painting directly over it, you want to do it from further away, like this. You don't want to go right up here. That will start it to pool. Now, since we are light blocking on the inside of this thing, it kind of doesn't matter, but it's a good idea to do get in the good habits of doing the spraying. So now I continually shake this. I shook it for about a minute before starting painting. You can't really overshake this stuff. So when you're doing spray paint, make sure you really shake it vigorously. And then when you're done painting, of course, always turn it upside down, press the button, in an area where some paint can go. Let it go for about 2 or 3 seconds so you can clear it out. Otherwise, it'll clog. And then you just get a paper towel or something and just wipe it. So, all right, here we go. Just a quick demonstration, starting on the outside here and going past the piece as well. So you're going to start outside and go past it. Now, I do have this on my cake decorating spinner. Okay. And again, sometimes I go over the middle of it, and that's okay. I'm not perfect. So, just when you're doing this, folks, start off with a light coat. Some people can get away with a couple coats of this. I tend to have to do 3 or 4 coats of light blocking. But the initial one, I'm just laying it down and not letting it pool in one area too much. Just a light coating. And then that one is completed. And I had already done the top of the saucer back here. So this piece here, these are little pieces that go behind the Bussard collectors. I'm going to light block the back of them because we have the spinning light effects. Whoops. Hello. So I'm going to probably get that with another coat later. Just there we go. I've got here the, let's make sure that we're in camera here. The shuttle bay doors, the clamshell. I'm going to light block the interior of that because there's going to be some lights on the back. I guess they're called like the ion pods, or two flashing lights there. And then, of course, the engineering section, secondary hull. Now we are going to get paint on the parts where we're going to glue on the edges, so that will be scraped off with the hobby knife later. And then the neck. And just a reminder, so this primer that I'm using, this is Rust-Oleum flat black primer. You want to try to avoid using gloss because it takes a long time to dry. So the flat or the matte really dries a lot more quickly. And Rust-Oleum dries pretty fast. So I can come back here in an hour or so and hit the second coat. Hitting this from far away. You want to hit all the angles. Now, when you're light blocking, the parts that tend to be missed, or the parts I tend to miss, are in curved parts, edges, and these little nooks and crannies in there. So take special care to rotate your piece as you're painting to get it from all angles. And that way you'll have less to clean up later, or less chance of missing a spot, especially like down in here. And again, the cool thing about the light blocking is if we have any spots that are just really apparent, we're going to, at the end, we're going to take our flashlight and put it on the inside here and find any spots. You can take a brush and some thicker model paint and brush in these corners, which is probably what we'll end up doing on this one, just to make sure. And we might do the same thing over here for these little corners there. You know, anytime you have an angle of plastic, 90-degree angle, the seam of that tends to not get any paint for some reason or another. It just doesn't land on it perfectly. So we can use some model paint and brush it in there, and it could be real thick stuff too. So anyway, that's it for now. And forgot one thing. Forgot to do the bridge. Can't forget that. So again, just light coat, and I'm going to let this stuff dry. I'm going to turn it upside down, clear it out, and then we'll wipe it down here, and it's ready to go for the next time. Okay, so that's it, everyone. I'll come back and show the finished product, and I'll let you know how many coats we have to do here to get this all done. But we'll show the checking, the method we use to check, make sure the light blocking is all done. And then when that's done, we'll just hit a little coat of white on there. It doesn't have to be too much, just to get even light balancing around there. So catch you soon. Okay, back from the paint station, and we have 2 coats of primer on the inside of the model, and this is for light blocking, of course. So I'm just going to take the little pen light I have. It's a very bright, you can see my ET finger there. It's very bright, so I'm going to just hold this underneath here and check to see if there are any spots where light's coming through, and I don't see any, except for, like we talked about in the last segment, if you look here, and why don't I turn off the light, you can see it better now. In these corners here, where you have a 90-degree corner, you can see there, and when I move the light back and forth, you can see along that seam that there is some light poking through. So that needs some extra attention. And when I look around in the other parts of the kit, the model rather, I do see the same effect. So I'm going to give this another shot of primer for sure. Usually maybe 2 coats would do it, but we're going to go with 3. And also keep in mind that the primer and the paint on the other side is going to help block out some light. But if I go here, you can still see the light poking through in some spots. And usually that's going to be where there's some obstruction or protrusions from the kit coming out like that. That's where the paint likes to not get there. So I have toyed with the idea of maybe using the airbrush, getting some black paint in the airbrush and getting really deep in there, controlled and fine. Maybe do that at some point. Let's try this one here. So, oh, there's a big bit right there. That is a window, I believe. Huh, I wonder if that's supposed to be there. Interesting. So they're not fully bored out. I guess I will look at the pictures and see if that's supposed to be a window that just didn't get drilled out in the factory. Interesting there, huh? So anyway, yeah, just taking a few minutes here to go through and just show you kind of how these light leaks are checked for, at least on my end, how I do it. Now, up here along the edge, you can see it's not quite as solid, so I still have some light peeking through there. And again, that looks like it really is supposed to be a window. So what I think I'm going to do is just go through here. I can kind of see the hole drilled there, so I think I will just drill through that with the pin vise. And there's 3 of them actually, so I only see one hole. Yeah, okay, really interesting. Anyway, yeah, so that's kind of the method that we go through to check for these light leaks, or check to make sure that the light blocking rather is sufficient. So I didn't bring over all the pieces. These 3 here are enough to tell me that we still need a little bit more. And we'll be going ahead and painting a 3rd coat, concentrating on these seams here. And then afterwards, I might even take some putty or something like that and just run a bead there and then paint over that, just a little insurance. I still have to think about that. Maybe it'll work, maybe not. Anyway, okay guys, we'll see you in a few minutes. How you doing, everyone? Okay, so the light blocking process is more or less completed. I do have a couple of spots in here that need a little bit of reinforcement, and more specifically, those are what we've talked about before. I found a few little tiny light leaks coming through the plastic, not leaks, but coming through the styrene on some of these areas that are a step, like a 90-degree angle there with some things going on inside. When we have those, for some reason or another, it's just the paint doesn't seem to like to sit in these corners and stuff like that. So I do have a couple things I'm going to do. I'll talk about that in a second. But when we have like this, for instance, the top half of the saucer section, there are no protrusions really in here. So there was no spots in here. This is all completely blocked of light, and it's really nice. The lower section of the saucer did have a couple areas in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just take a brush and some nice thick black paint from Vallejo that comes in one of these bottles right here. I think it says I have gloss black, and what I'll do is I'll just take these and just kind of run that on some of these corners where I see these light, there's little bits of light coming through. And for that, I tested that with my pen light, turned off the lights in the shop, and I really kind of stuck the pen right up against there. So here you can kind of see one right here. Where is it? Oh, there it is. You can see this glow coming through. Now, this part I'm not going to have to worry about because this is on the inside of the deflector array. There are no lights right here. All the lights are going to be kind of laid down on the middle, so that shouldn't be a problem. But I'm still going to take the paint and just go through here with a brush and firm up these areas right in there along these corners. What's 15, 20 minutes of doing that, letting it sit for an hour, and agonizing over a light spot coming through the plastic. So I'm going to do that the same here in this area. Right here, there's a step. So we're gonna do some black paint just with the Vallejo color. Just lay it down in there, and I'm not gonna have to paint that white, so there can be some seams. So think of it like a welding line or something like that. So I'm gonna give that a shot, and that should be fine. And then also remember, we are going to be putting several coats of a gray on top of it on the outside. I'm not going to do the outside in black. I don't think that's necessary. Everything's light blocked pretty well. So, all right. That is basically that, folks. So this chapter is concluded. It's going really well here. So the next chapter, what we're going to be doing is laying down the lighting scheme, putting the windows in, putting the LEDs in. A lot of fun stuff happening next video. I'll try to keep that one at about a half an hour, but it might go a little bit longer. So the next one will really see some movement. Thank you, everyone, for your attention here. This is kind of a boring first 2 chapters, but for this kid, it's really essential to get everything laid out really well, and then we'll have a nice build later on. So thank you for your attention. And if you're building these along with me, hope you're having fun with this. And don't forget, send pictures to me. It's the sci-fi model guy at gmail.com. I do check these emails, and you will get a response even if I'm a little bit late responding to them. So thanks again, everyone. We'll see you very soon with another video.